we're just trying to like just figure out what is really going on. We see that
next time just call because there's nothing going on.
Yeah. So acres and acres for $30 million and then $5 million and you get a place where there's no signage for the winery. E Street Crew has a sign on the door that says, E Street Crew does not make wine here.
So there's a video by Angela Rose. I will put her link in the description. You should definitely check this channel out. She travels, she goes to the locations to see what's going on. And today we're just connecting some of the dots that is going to make all of our heads spin, but it won't be a complete surprise. You remember all of the Somali daycare fraud that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, the feeding our future, the millions of dollars disappearing through fake businesses, claiming to feed kids that don't exist. Well, what if I told you the money didn't just vanish into thin air? Some of it got washed clean, and one of those washing machines might be a winery in California. A winery that, and I cannot make this up, has a literal sign on the door saying, "We do not make wine here." I'm talking about Ilhan Omar's husband's winery. And before you think that this is just some kind of conspiratory theory nonsense, I'm going to walk you through why this looks exactly like the Somali fraud schemes I've been documenting over the last couple of weeks. Same playbook, different front business with a higher tax bracket. Let's get into it.
Why should we look into this business is because it is connected to the U.S. representative of Minnesota, Ilhan Omar, who makes $174,000, yet her household is worth $30 million. Her husband, Tim Manette's net worth apparently comes from operating this business. If this is not a real business, it is another example of the pattern of politicians calling for the abolishment of ICE, trying to distract from the fact that they are related to the businesses that Nick Shirley exposed and other fraud happening that is running our country into a bigger and bigger debt.
I don't know. This is just a made-up fake winery, just like a lot of stuff in California.
So first, let's talk about the numbers. Ilhan Omar makes $174,000 a year as a congresswoman, standard pay for that position. Somehow, her husband is worth $30 million. $30 million. Where does that money come from? According to financial disclosures, a big chunk of that wealth comes from her husband, Tim Wynette's business, E Street Crew Winery. This winery supposedly went from making $50,000 in 1 year, and then bam, the very next year it jumps to $1 to $5 million in value. When someone tells you that their business increased in value by 10,000% in 12 months, you may have to give them a side eye for a second and see what is really going on here. So the YouTuber Angela Rose decided to actually visit this winery in California, and what they found was absolutely wild.
You mean the wine crushing facility right here?
Okay.
Punchtown?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're a wine crushing company. They, I think, store wine for from wineries in the areas.
Okay. Do you know the names of the wineries that they store for?
I don't remember something yet, but it's accessible on the website.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
In fact, it is available on the website, and when you check out their client list, not one of the labels that this winery uses is listed. If we have any wine lovers watching, do any of these labels sound familiar to you? When you look up their most popular one, The Devil's Lie, you just get a bunch of articles of people angry about this fraudulent business.
Here's what a legitimate $5 million winery would look like. There would be acres of vineyards, a tasting room, a wine club membership, distribution deals, industry awards. But here's what E Street Crew Winery looks like. A unit in a shopping center next to a church. No signage, no tasting room, no vineyard. In fact, the address listed for E Street Crew is actually a custom crush facility called Punchdown Cellars. Basically a warehouse where about 40 different small wineries store barrels and process their wine. You can think of it as a WeWork for winemakers. You rent space, but you don't own the building. So here's the problem. When Angela showed up, they found something incredible. E Street Crew literally put a sign up and said, I quote, E Street Crew does not make wine here. They were a client many years ago and have ceased operation. So this is a winery that's supposed to be worth millions of dollars that has a sign on the door that says they don't make wine here.
So let's see, this is Suite B. Again, that is the address where Ilhan Omar's winery is.
We do not make wine here. Oh, they're totally addressing it right now.
E Street Crew has a sign on the door that says, E Street Crew does not make wine here. They were a client many years ago and have ceased operation. Their operating address is linked to this address like all other client wineries because of state and federal filings. So I wonder what else they have to show for it.
Maybe they got another facility, maybe another vineyard, something. No. So this a dude by the name of Carmine, he lived in this county his entire life. He never heard of E Street Crew Winery, never heard anyone mention it. You know what wine country people do? They talk about wine a lot. They recommend wineries to each other. They have memberships. They go to tastings. They know all the local brands. No one knows this winery. So when you look up E Street Crew supposed client list at the Punch Down Cellar, the facility that they claim that they make wine, not a single E Street Crew label is listed. And the funny part about this is their most popular wine is supposed to be called Devil's Lie. And when you search for this wine called Devil's Lie, you know what you find? Not wine reviews, not retail listings, no ratings, no scores. You find articles about fraud allegations. The wine doesn't exist. The label doesn't exist. There is no tasting room, no distribution, no wine club, no presence in the actual wine industry whatsoever. Carmine went to Safeway looking for the E Street Crew wine. Couldn't find it. You know what he found? Random box wine from actual wineries that actually exist. Now, you've been watching this channel, you see something very familiar because this is the exact same playbook as the Somali daycare frauds that we've been documenting. Let's break down the pattern. The fake Somali fraud is fake businesses with minimal physical presence, inflated invoices that don't match reality, no actual services being provided, multiple quote-unquote businesses clustered at the same address, money moving through shell companies. Let's look at the allegations from the E Street Crew Winery. Fake business with no physical presence. Valuation jumps from $50,000 to $5 million with no actual product. No wine actually being made. Operating out of a shared facility with 40 other wineries. Also, money appearing on financial disclosures with nothing to show for it. It's the same scam. Just instead of claiming to feed thousands of kids out of a strip mall kitchen, now they're claiming to make millions of dollars worth of wine out of a unit next to a church. The difference? Daycare fraud was immigrants exploiting welfare programs. This is a sitting congresswoman potentially laundering money through a fake winery. You might be asking, why did they pick a winery to do this? Why not a consulting firm or a tech startup or anything else? Because wine is the perfect money laundering vehicle. Here's why. Number one, subjective pricing. A bottle of wine could cost $10 or $1,500. Who's to say what it's worth? It's just like art. Number two, it's hard to audit. Wine sits in barrels aging for years. You can claim you have inventory without having to show it. Another one, high dollar transactions. Wine isn't cheap, especially if you want quality wine. You can move millions of dollars to a wine business without raising eyebrows. Try pushing millions of dollars through a burger shop. People are going to start asking questions. Wineries are usually out in the middle of nowhere, private, perfect for meetings you don't want documented. Look who else has wineries in California. Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom. Why are all of these politicians have a winery? Because it's the perfect paper business to justify large cash flows.
Makes wine for 14 different.
They don't make wine.
Or crush
You
it.
crush it and you hold it.
Winemakers make wine in the same facility.
Oh, cool.
So-
Which, because my family, we've been part of like members of like certain wineries and stuff. So is there like a high-end brand that you guys like hold for or anything like that?
No, I don't own the place.
Okay.
I'm just one of the winemakers.
Okay,
There.
cool.
And there's a bunch of us under one roof.
Awesome.
That's all it
What's
is.
your winery's name?
Well, I'm not going to get into it,
Okay.
but it's not that much.
Well, yeah, obviously.
He didn't really seem very happy.
No,
Do they have people coming to check this place out or something that they needed to put a sign on it? I mean, I
probably.
haven't noticed this.
Very similar to the Somali fraud situation. When Angela show up to ask legit questions, people at the Punch Down Cellars get immediately hostile and defensive. Instead of just explaining, oh yeah, E Street Crew used to be a client, but they're not here anymore. They got condescending. Why try to discredit the investigators instead of just answering simple questions? And what they don't want anyone looking too close. Compare that to the pastor at the church next door. Super nice, super helpful, explained everything openly. So here's where we at. We have a congresswoman worth $30 million on a $174,000 salary. We have a winery that doesn't really make wine, doesn't sell wine, doesn't have vineyards, don't have a tasting room, and has a sign literally saying, we don't operate here. We have a valuation that jumped from 50 grand to 5 million in 1 year with zero industry presence to justify it. And we got the exact same pattern as the Somali daycare fraud. Shell businesses, inflated values, no actual product or service, money moving through fake operations. The money from Feeding Our Future didn't disappear. It got washed. This might be one of the washing machines. We will continue to follow this story. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Please follow Angela Rose. She's out there doing really the heavy lifting, traveling to these places to see what's going on. Her link will be in the description box below. Please subscribe to her. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.